some ideas. And I will present this paper which I wrote with a colleague of mine, Daniela Prats, from the same university, University of Campinas. And the title is Exchange Rate Dynamics in the Peripheral Monetary Economy, a Keynesian perspective. So I have explained what I understand by monetary economy, this concept of peripheral economy, and also why is a Keynesian perspective. And I must confess first that I feel a little bit like a fish outside the water here, because I don't do models. I'm not a model builder, and therefore I don't use refined or sophisticated macroeconomic techniques. I'm more into I could say, historical or institutionalist approach for the subject that I want to discuss. And perhaps to more orthodox ears, it might sound like a little bit like some exotic ideas or exotic approaches. Okay? The phenomenon or the event that we want to discuss is how exchange, what drives the behavior of exchange rates in this peripheral monetary economy. And we try to see this phenomenon and interpret it from a different perspective, which we call Keynesian, structuralist, or institutionalist analysis or perspective. And I'll try to use these concepts and ideas which belong to this paradigm, if you want. The subject itself is important for many reasons. And the fact that since the 90s we have successive crises and exchange rate regimes were replaced by dirty floating exchange rates regimes with different degrees of intervention. And we also see that the interventions of central banks in currency markets, something like the fear of floating, that a lot of people have mentioned here, can be associated with the need to contain the higher volatility of floating exchange rates in these economies, and or the adoption of defensive strategies in an international financial environment which can be characterized by instability of capital flows, in particular to this part of the world. So this can be seen as a type of defensive and rational behavior in order to reduce external vulnerability via preemptive accumulation of reserves, or what somebody called the precautionary demand for reserves, and maintain a competitive level for the exchange rate under export-based growth policies. I use part of the discussion is made by using some post-Keynesian authors, in particular John Harvey, and we try to understand these dynamics of exchange rates in the international, having as an institutional side the international or the institutional background of the discussion. Discussion is the international financial and monetary system that emerged after the collapse of Bretton Woods regime. But this literature, we find out that it does not provide an explanation of the peculiarities, the specificities inevitably associated with the peripheral economies. For instance, the higher volatility of exchange rates. So to proceed with this interpretation, we suggest, the suggestion is to fall back, to resort to Keynes and Keynesian approach to the properties of a monetary economy, extend the discussion to we call it an open monetary economy, to revisit the structuralist notion of the nature of what we call the peripheral condition, and also discuss the hierarchical and asymmetrical features of the current international monetary and financial system. What we call here essential properties of a monetary economy is an idea based on some notions or concepts that Keynes presented some time ago. And in one short paper, a short article in 1933, he distinguished between a monetary economy and a real exchange or barter economy. He tried to emphasize that in a monetary economy, the property of non-neutrality of money, and to see money, and propose to see money as an asset, which has a crucial role to play, not only in the short, but also in the long run, in the sense that if in certain circumstances, great part of agents decide to build more liquid portfolios, this will have a consequence, an important consequence for the path of the real economy, or the real side of the economy. This idea of making a taxonomy between monetary economy and real exchange or barter economy can also be seen through a different classification that Hyman Minsky used when he said that this is village fair paradigm. We can understand how the economy works through a village fair paradigm, which would be something like a real exchange economy, and a Wall Street paradigm. And he tried to emphasize through his discussion of the financial instability hypothesis, how financial relations in terms of head speculative in Ponzi, financial structure or financial posture affect the behavior of the economy, and how this endogenous generates cycles. And in other words, he tries to explain why stability brings inevitably a destabilizing situation if something is not done from the part of the policymakers, the regulators, etc. I am not using Minsky's in discussion. This discussion is just to give you an idea in terms of classification of the types of economy. So, in the discussion of the essential properties of a monetary economy, the idea here is to explore what Keynes said in the chapter 17 of the general theory, when he presented the idea of that different assets have specific attributes. And these specific attributes are the expected quasi-rent Q, the carrying cost C, the liquidity premium L, which he defines as a power of disposal in order to give more security against uncertain prospects, and the expected appreciation, which is the attribute A. The combination of these attributes provides what he calls an asset's own rates of interest, RA, or its total expected returns, and the sum of these attributes give this rather simple expression. We could then think about this, how these attributes characterize assets in terms of choosing, in terms of classifying assets according to a gradient of liquidity. For instance, capital goods. Somebody or entrepreneur will demand capital goods because it will give a flow of yields or incomes during the period that capital goods use compared to its carrying cost. Nobody will demand or will hold in a portfolio capital goods because of this, its liquidity premium. It's not a protection against uncertainty. Nobody will buy a capital goods because of it expects that can be sold in after a period by a higher price. So the main attribute of the capital goods is the difference between Q and C. And in the case of financial assets in money, liquidity premium has an important role to play. Okay. So in this idea, liquidity preference is expressed by means of a trade-off between monetary returns given by the attributes A, Q, and C, and the liquidity premium, which can be seen as a non-pecuniary return, because it gives safety to the agent who prices a lot depending on the situation. So this dilemma is reflecting the way agents structure their assets portfolio. In a monetary economy with such characteristics, liquidity is strong. The idea here is that liquidity is strongly cherished in times in which uncertainty of the future or is the perception of uncertainty in relation of future results is high, justifying an increased demand for money as an asset for its close substitute, so as to structure a portfolio as liquid as possible. Now, other concepts that one could use for an alternative analysis, this could be the idea of conventions. How can you see these conventions or conventional behavior? Right? Sort of anchor for decision-making process under genuine uncertainty. And particularly in the case of Keynes discussion, convention is based on two rules of behavior. The inductive, what I call the inductive reasoning, that is, they think that the future will resemble the past unless we have important reasons to suppose that the situation would be other. And the other is to conform with the behavior of the majority of the average or the average opinion, something like herd behavior, bandwagon behavior, as Schumeister, for instance, qualified it, follow the crowd, or mimetic behavior, like an idea which is important for the French school of conventions, like the Rogerio, etc. So imitate others. There is also other ideas, but I will not go into it. So there is also this idea that financial assets defended by Paul Davidson should be traded in the spot markets, orderly and well organized. And what is in this orderly market is necessary regulation institution known as the market maker, which is the agent or the institution that publicly announces the disposition or the motivation to act immediately as a residual buyer or seller in order to ensure a minimum of stability and orderliness in case of destabilizing changes affecting either the demand or the supply. So these concepts and ideas associated with this, what we call a monetary economy, can be applied to a particular, or at least we hope it can be applied to a particular segment of financial markets, that is the currency markets, where the relevant agents hold a specific class of assets which we will call, for the lack of a better name, currency assets. Okay? We try to investigate how some of these concepts and ideas can be brought together to account for the determination of exchange rates in a monetary economy in the current globalized monetary and financial system post-Bretton Woods. In this specific historical context, in this historical setting, short-run capital flows play an active and autonomous role in the economy, according to some people who try to investigate this. Short-term capital flows are seen as the main determinant of the exchange rate dynamics. There's a major concern here is to search for the underlying factors which affect agents' expectations and behavior in currency markets in environment of uncertainty. So Schumacher, for instance, in this paper, said that the purchases and sales of currencies by the banks' trading desks, the dealers in the currency markets, would be based on trading rules, such as trading rules which will result in this bandwagon behavior and the profit from the sales of appreciated assets, what he calls cash-in effect. And John Harvey, another economist in this tradition, also discusses this whole
bandwagon behavior. What is it? Bandwagon.
Bandwagon.
What is it?
Follow
I'm
the
not
crowd,
sure, but
something like
Okay.
coming
Okay,
in the bandwagon
Okay.
and you go to the same place.
Okay.
I think it's something that comes from the political jargon in the US, something related to politics. So, let's go and support this candidate. Everybody in the bandwagon will go see what happens. And also John Harvard discussed the volatility of exchange rates in the post-Bretton Woods environment, and as a result of investors' appetites for capital gains in the short run. So sudden changes in expectations regarding future movements of the exchange rates generate rapid changes in current rates. So in the globalized monetary and financial system which emerged after the collapse of Bretton Woods, portfolio capital flows govern transactions in the currency markets and drive exchange rates. As currencies are held as a part of a portfolio of assets, own rates of interest, the challenge here is to see how this idea of own rates of interest can be used to represent this series, the following behavior. The process of price determination of these assets can be represented to those variables, those attributes of that previous expression. So we need to understand these attributes of these currency assets in order to comprehend the behavior of currency markets. Currency assets pricing is peculiar due to the distinctive traits such as the strong exchange rate volatility. This means that variable A, the expected appreciation or depreciation of the currency, will tend to be highly volatile. Furthermore, in the case of these emerging peripheral currencies, the volatility tends to be higher. And to understand this specific behavior of A in the case of this currency, as well as other attributes, we need to contemplate other ingredients in the analysis. So, what are the peculiar features of peripheral countries which, in theory, makes their currencies more volatile? What one might call the peripheral condition is a result of a given economy's structural insertion in the international division of labor, in the global order, which is organized, which can be seen as organized in two poles, as expressed in the center-periphery metaphor. That literature of the Latin American structuralist economists like Raul Prevish, Oswaldo Sucre, etc. Bunch of economists, which was a CEPAL, Comissão Econômica para a América Latina, or Economic Commission of Latin America and Caribbean. They came with this idea, with a lot of interesting ideas. And we can say that this metaphor can be interpreted in terms of asymmetries and heterogeneities among the center and the periphery in relation to the creation and dissemination of technical progress, in relation to the national innovation systems as a key institutional structure for the endogenous generation of technical progress, productive structures, typical patterns of income distribution and employment creation, and the degree of domestic economic policy autonomy. The importance of financial and monetary relation, as well as the dynamics of financial markets, especially currency markets, has not received an important emphasis in the structuralist literature. This literature tended to focus more on the process operating in the real side of the economy. So a discussion of the exchange rate dynamics in this economy might contribute to, in theory, to fill this gap. It is the fact that there is a hierarchy among currencies that allows one to elucidate the force at work which might engender structural volatility of this of the currency in emerging peripheral economies, making them especially vulnerable to capital flights. Well, let's talk about the monetary asymmetry. It refers to the hierarchical dimension of the international monetary system. Currencies are hierarchically positioned according to their degree of liquidity, or expressed in this liquidity premium L, which is related to this currency's ability to perform internationally the functions of money, the basic functions of money, medium of exchange, unit of account, and store of value. And there is a key currency which is placed at the top of this hierarchy because it has the highest degree of liquidity, or it has the maximum liquidity premium L at a global scale. The currencies issued by the other core countries are in an intermediate position and can also be considered as liquid currencies. They are used as well as a means of denomination of contracts at an international scale and are demanded as a store of value by foreign investors. They have a high liquidity premium, of course, but not as high as the main currency, the dollar. At the opposite end of this of what called the monetary pyramid, at the opposite end are the currencies issued by emerging peripheral countries, which are non-liquid currencies, for they are not able to perform those functions of money even marginally. So these currencies as assets are priced with a lower liquidity premium, although they might be demanded according to expectation regarding shifts in the value of attributes A and C. For instance, in one specific situation, a low L currency, a currency with a low liquidity premium L, could have a higher own rate of interest than a high L currency, The situation expresses the idea that the hierarchy of curves is not about the expected total return, but about liquidity. How?
You have 8
8 minutes. So, 7 minutes. So there is this monetary asymmetry, but there is also a financial asymmetry, and one overlaps with the other. So in the case of the asymmetry of the international financial system, I would like to point out 2 specific points. The rationality of capital flows direct to emerging economies, which can be seen as a result of an exogenous process, which it caused the emerging economies to be permanently vulnerable to their reversal by changes of phase in the economic cycle and/or changes in the monetary policy of core countries, as well as increasing the liquidity preference of global investors. And the second point is the marginal insertion of these emerging countries, peripheral emerging countries, in the global capital flows. In spite of the growing participation of assets issued by this country in the portfolios of foreign investors since the 90s, this participation is still residual. So these mutually reinforced monetary and financial asymmetries have 2 important consequences for the behavior of exchange rate markets in the emerging peripheral economies. These markets are particularly vulnerable in the inherent volatility of capital flow at points of reversal of the cycle of monetary policy changes in the center and of increasing the liquidity preference. Emerging assets are the first victims of the global investors' flight to quality. They cannot perform the function of store value and therefore cannot be a receptacle of uncertainty at a global scale. We can interpret this by considering the fact that they have this smaller L, liquidity premium L. And despite the residual nature of capital flows directed to emerging countries, the potentially destabilizing effects of these flows on domestic exchange rates and financial markets are significant. For the volume allocated by global investors is not marginal in relation to the size of these markets. Okay. So, in this context of that I try to outline here, this self-insurance strategy of foreign reserve accumulation does amount to a defensive, rational behavior or a response by these countries in the context of this globalized and liberalized finance. This precautionary demand increases their potential capacity of sustaining a desired level of international liquidity and of exchange rate stabilization in times of capital flows reversal. In this case, the central banks act as market makers par excellence. So central banks of each country, informed by their domestic policy goals, act as market makers in their currency markets. Governments and central banks have the power to influence the values of some currency asset attributes according to policy objectives. This power, in turn, depends on both the size of foreign reserves and the degree of financial openness. The larger the foreign reserves, the greater the central bank capacity to reduce the volatility of the attribute A. Furthermore, moreover, the higher the degree of financial openness, the lower will be C, the cost of carrying this kind of asset. On the other hand, in period of international liquidity excess, when appetites for risk are higher, or there are more agents are more eager to bet against the uncertain future, perhaps they are more loaded with animal spirits. These emerging assets become objects of desire on the part of global investors because of the expectation of appreciation and increase in aid of their respective currencies, compensating for the reduced liquidity premium L. That is, although the liquidity premium L is structurally low, their total return, RA, can be cyclically high enough to offset the form. So government and central banks can influence the values of CNA according to the policy objectives. So, just to say a few words in order to conclude the discussion, what I want to point out, and I don't know if I was successful, is that the narrative that emerges from this discussion is not of markets characterized by efficiency, stability, and optimality, governed by this elusive concept of fundamentals, but rather by institutions and structures which substantially affect individual intersubjective assessments, which must necessarily be made in situations marked by difficulties in forecasting, a situation of high uncertainty, and by recurring changes which require sudden and fast revisions of expectations and conventions. This, what we might call this instability, this frequent instability of agents' beliefs, though this situation can be perfectly interspersed with periods of stability. So, I would like to finish now, just giving my, I did not talk to Hugo Panizo before, but perhaps we have this urge that would be very interesting to give some thoughts and quotes for us to reflect here. And I would like to finish this presentation with what I would call my thought of the day. As Don Maynard Keynes said, it's better to be vaguely right than precisely wrong. Thank you very much.